Mountain Man Narratives, Bears and God. Hugh Glass's Ordeal. The story of Hugh Glass, a frontier mountain man who was brutally mauled by a grizzly bear in 1823. The complete original account was first published in 1825. A quote from Hugh Glass about the start of the bear attack. The bear, with eyes aflame and a roar that shook the very earth, charged upon me with a force that sent me reeling to the ground. From Section 3, The Wrath of the Wilderness. In that moment of despair, I called upon the Almighty, Lord, if it be thy will, spare me from this peril. From Section 4, A Plea to the Heavens. Jedediah Smith's Encounter. Jedediah Smith, born in 1798. Jed was attacked by a grizzly bear in the Black Hills. His survival is briefly recounted in historical compilations of mountain man life. Smith's scalp and ear were left nearly torn off. At Smith's request, his companion, Jim Kleiman, sewed them back on. The account appears in various frontier history compilations that are freely available through resources like Project Gutenberg or HathiTrust Digital. To add more to Smith's story, the following is from james1948.wordpress.com. Much respect to you, brother. Thank you for honoring God in your work and pointing to Jesus. May many visit your website as a result of seeing this video. Jed Smith helped discover the South Pass through the Rockies and the first land route to California, opening the door for the largest voluntary mass migration in world history of nearly 400,000. Jed led settlers across the Santa Fe Trail, the Mojave Desert, the Sierra Nevadas, and up the Oregon coast. This may call to mind other expeditions that came later, for example, the Donner Party, who passed through Nevada and the Sierras. Young Jedediah Smith, aged 22, answered an ad in the Missouri Gazette, placed by Missouri's Lieutenant Governor William H. Ashley, seeking enterprising young men to ascend the River Missouri to its source, to be employed for 3 years. Smith was known to carry 2 books with him, the Bible and a copy of Lewis and Clark's expedition. The Lewis and Clark expedition had taken place when Smith was a toddler. Smith never drank, never used tobacco, and never boasted, according to friends. He wrote in his journal, "Then let us come forward with faith, nothing doubting, and he will most unquestionably hear us." Jedediah entered into a fur-trapping partnership called Smith, Jackson, and Sublette. In 1827, they sold furs at a rendezvous near the Great Salt Lake, a place the Donner Party would later pass by as well. Fellow trapper John Gardner died during this time. Smith gave the eulogy, as recorded by expedition member Hugh Glass. Mr. Smith, a young man of our company, made a powerful prayer which moved us all greatly, and I am persuaded John died in peace. As captain of his second expedition, Jedediah Smith was attacked by a grizzly bear. His friend Jim Kleiman described the attack. The grizzly did not hesitate a moment, but sprang on the captain, taking him by the head, first pitching sprawling on the earth, breaking several of his ribs and cutting his head badly. The bear had taken nearly all his head in his capacious mouth, close to his left eye on one side and close to his right ear on the other, and laid the skull bare to near the crown of the head. One of his ears was torn from his head out to the outer rim. Smith asked Jim Kleiman to sew his scalp back on, but the ear was too cut up to save it. Smith insisted. Kleiman recorded the attempt. I put my needle sticking it through and over, laying the lacerated parts together as nice as I could with my hands. After 2 weeks of rest, Smith resumed leading the expedition. Men sure were made tough back then. On December 24, 1829, from the Wind River on the east side of the Rocky Mountains, Jedediah Smith wrote to his parents in Ohio, "It is a long time since I left home, and many times I have been ready to bring my business to a close and endeavor to come home, but have been hindered hitherto. However, I will endeavor, by the assistance of divine providence, to come home as soon as possible. But whether I shall ever be allowed the privilege, God only knows. I feel the need of the watch and care of a Christian church. You may well suppose that our society is of the roughest kind. Men of good morals seldom enter into business of this kind. I hope you'll remember me before the throne of grace. May God in his infinite mercy allow me soon to join my parents is the prayer of your undutiful son, Jedediah S. Smith." In a letter to his brother Ralph, December 24, 1829, Jedediah Smith wrote, "Many hostile tribes of Indians inhabit this space. In August 1827, 10 men who were in company with me lost their lives by the Amuchabas Indians. In July 1828, 15 men who were in company with me lost their lives by the Umpqua Indians. Many others have lost their lives in different parts. My brother, I have need of your prayers to bear me up before the throne of grace. In 1830, Smith sold his shares in the Rocky Mountain Fur Company, retired, and bought a townhouse in St. Louis. However, he had agreed to go on one last trip for the Sublette and Jackson Company, leaving in the spring of 1831. On May 27, 1831, while looking for water along the Santa Fe Trail, Smith was ambushed by Comanche warriors and killed. Just 4 months earlier, January 26, Jedediah Smith had written to his brother Ralph in Wayne County, Ohio. Some who have made a profession of Christianity and have by their own negligence caused the Spirit to depart think their day of grace is over, but where did they find such doctrine? I find our Savior ever entreating and wooing us. My First Summer in the Sierra by John Muir, written in 1911. Bear Encounter. Quote, having heard that a black bear will run from his bad brother man and deciding I would like to see his gait in running, I rushed and shouted at a large cinnamon-colored fellow. To my dismay, he did not run. On the contrary, he stood his ground, ready to fight. Then I suddenly began to fear upon me would fall the work of running. From Chapter 7, Encounters in the Forest. Anyhow, we never know where we must go nor what guides we are to get. Men, storms, guardian angels, or sheep. From Chapter 10, The Unseen Path. Wildlife of the Rocky Mountains by William Henry Holmes, written 1881. Bear Encounter. Quote, as I traversed the dense underbrush, a sudden rustling preceded the emergence of a formidable grizzly, its gaze fixed upon me with predatory intent. From Chapter 5, Face to Face with the Grizzly. In the solitude of these majestic peaks, one cannot help but feel the presence of the Creator, whose hand sculpted these lands. From Chapter 8, Reflections Among the Peaks. Narrative of the Second Grinnell Expedition to the Arctic, 1853. Amid the desolate ice fields, a polar bear emerged, a stark embodiment of the relentless Arctic wilderness. From Chapter 12, The Ice Bear's Realm. In this frozen expanse, where man's strength falters, we are reminded of our reliance on divine providence. From Chapter 15, Under the Northern Lights.